Hello and welcome back. Guys, it's been almost a week. Or has it been more? I've lost track of time. I'm so excited to be here tonight. Obviously, we've got the system put together last week from the parts that we accumulated for a super cheap price. And we did an extremely long video in getting the last little pieces put together, but we just didn't have time to put it together. Put power to it and see if it would start. So let's kind of refresh. First of all, we bought a cheap box of parts. There was a case, a couple of graphics cards, a motherboard, and basically a whole computer with a couple of hard drives in it that were, we didn't know what was on them, wasn't sure. And I believe those have been erased. I haven't really actually checked them yet. But we were excited to get to find out. Sorry, my special effects just failed. We'll talk about this in a moment. So, you say, Robert, what was that on your head? Guys, some of you may know what this is. Some of you may not. And it was supposed to stay there for a few minutes, but since we're live, I'll roll with it. We bought these parts. We got a good deal on some cheap parts, and our intentions were to build a computer, learn how to do it, so that someone who's never done it before can say, "Hey, I can go out and get some cheap parts because I've got nothing to lose. If I've got $30 or $40 or $100 to spare, and I don't want to spend $500 or $800 on a brand new computer I don't know anything about. If anything ever goes wrong, all these things come to mind, and you think, like, why would I want to pay someone else to build me a computer when I can learn how to do it myself? The coolest thing about having a computer that you've built yourself is you can build another computer after that, or you can upgrade the one that you've built to its capacity of what it's available to do, and you can make it better. You can make it faster. You keep it more up to date. If you buy a name brand computer, a lot of times they're going to have limitations on what they can do. Not to mention interior restrictions and what you can and can't do with those. So I'm glad that you're here. Thank you for being on the adventure. Special shout out to John Paul Bacon, new subscriber. Also, Sean OP59. Guys, welcome. Thank you for following me and subscribing to my channel. I hope that I can bring you more content and things that you can enjoy. And if nothing else, say, wonder if I can do that. Certainly can. It would be cool for younger people to also know how to do this as well. And anything I can do to share with things that I've learned to know how to do, I'm all for it. It's good times. So what was this for? Okay, guys, I'm not going to lie to you. And I've lost it again. I've got it. This is a battery. This is the only battery that your computer has. And it is called a CMOS battery. Okay, so in the sense of being perfectly honest with you, I have booted this system up and I know that it works. I wanted to be the guy that said, hey, let's push this button together. Let's see what happens. And sometimes when you feel confident about your build, the littlest, tiniest thing can hold you up. I plugged this, I powered it up, and I got the fan to come on. I got some lights in the case to come on. The fan was spinning. Now remember, we don't have anything connected to the front fans because this wood doesn't support. I apologize. My chair is terribly squeaky. I'll try not to move. We don't have any support for those fans in the front, so they're not going to light up or spin with this motherboard because those controls usually come from the motherboard. Unless there's an external controller that is sometimes when you buy fan kits, they have a controller that will plug in your motherboard on one plug, like a USB or something, get power from the power supply and whatnot, and that will be there. But being that we're dealing with parts that we've required a bunch of one set and then having to get the case another time, we literally don't have more than $100 invested in this whole computer right here. Now, granted, the original motherboard did turn out to be bad, and I had to replace with a motherboard that I knew worked. And even that board didn't cost me much. I'm pretty sure we're right at $100 of my total investment ever on this. If anything, maybe this motherboard was in a system that I acquired for free. Somebody had it extra, gave it to me, or I honestly can't remember. I've had it that long. I hoard PC parts. I keep them all the time. I've got a whole closet full of odds and ends and things. And when I get a really good deal, I can't pass up at an estate sale or online or Facebook or Craigslist. I go and get it because you never know when you might need it. And I just like to play with this stuff. I like to go get electronic stuff and play with it, take it apart, put it back together, take it apart, throw it away. There's no right or wrong when it comes to trying to figure out and learn how to deal with things that you enjoy like that. So that kind of thing is not for everybody. But when you get a great opportunity to buy something for a good price, it's a good investment because that stuff's always going to be more expensive later. Okay, so I'll quit rambling, but we'll get to the point. When I first powered this up, absolutely nothing. I got electricity to the fan. The blue light came on the fan. The case lit up, and nothing. No picture, no post, nothing. So if you remember, this graphics card was one of two that came with it. Oh gosh, sorry, I'm working on putting my studio together, but here's the other little graphics card that came with it. And I'm not gonna lie, I spent the better part of about 3 hours. Here's an old graphics card that I have kept on the shelf that I absolutely know works, but for this particular graphics card, if I ever got a system that a CPU was not compatible with something newer or didn't have the drivers on the system to run it, this almost always plugs and plays because it's such an older model. I have no idea what it is. It's probably a ATI Radeon 1. Sure, why not? Let's go with that. But I knew that worked. That was my solid. I knew the motherboard should work, and I just didn't know why. And some of you already know where this is going, but hopefully it's still fun for you to figure this out. But I took the graphics card out. I put the other graphics card in. I put this other graphics card in. I pulled the RAM out. I put one stick of RAM back in. I pulled that one stick out and put it in each one of the other slots. Continually trying to reboot it. Nothing. Just no screen, no graphics, not even a BIOS screen. For those of you who might not know, a BIOS is the program that is installed in the motherboard and a small microchip that gives you some basic user functions. Some of the newer motherboards and whatnot are much more advanced, but they give you controllable functions to help your board communicate with your operating system and your components in there. It's an in-between. And almost all the time when even there's no operating system on a source, a hard drive or something to let it process, the BIOS will still do some configuration, some things you can do to the computer. I wasn't getting nothing. No BIOS, no blink on the screen, no nothing. Just no signal on the monitor here. And it was kind of discouraging. And I'm super, super glad that I didn't spool up a live. For now, I'm doing lives. I would like to get to recording some videos. I've got a couple of additions to my gear and some lighting that I'd like to do to make that happen. I'm completely open to anybody who has recommendations for editing software. I do have OBS installed on my computer. I'm still trying to learn how to use it. I just the other day was able to broadcast from my tablet video to OBS with a few glitches, and I'm not sure how. I know that I can put that into my YouTube and record it there or stream that live as well, but I'd like to start recording, possibly GoPro or a camera or something, then being able to do a little editing, make it a little more fun for you. All that being said, I still wasn't getting a post. So the last thing that came to mind and was, well, maybe the CMOS battery is dead. It was staring me right in the face. It was almost like it was right in front of me. I mean, I can't help but see the CMOS battery right there inside the case on the motherboard. It's as if it were stuck to the top of my head. When I pulled that out, I put a little voltage meter on it, and it read 1 volt. It's supposed to be 3. Ta-da. Instantly after, hello? We're having something going on back over there. I'll be with you in a minute. Wait your turn. I put the new battery in, which I always have a couple of these laying around. They're 50 cents a piece in bulk. You get them on Amazon for 15 pack for $10, give or take. And guys, right away, it booted right up. I had changed the hard drive out. I checked a couple of, actually, took another hard drive, one that I own, that I've had, that I know worked, made sure that it worked on a different system, and brought it back. So I'm so happy that I don't have to drag you guys through 2 hours of watching me fumble and fuss trying to put that back together. Then give up and you would have had a completely worthless video. So from that being said, we know where we're at. Let's fire this thing up. Let's do it right now, because I've got something exciting to tell you once we get it going. Thank you for Arzopa making a monitor. I got a good deal on this. I don't promote it. I don't sell it. I saw it so often that I thought it was a cool thing, and I had to have one. When I got a chance to get one for less than $40, I bought it, and I don't regret it. It's super handy for this. It's portable. I don't have to brag on it. It just is what it is. It's not the fancy one. It's just like 1080. But let's hit the power button. Can I get a countdown? 100, 99, 98. No, I'm just kidding. 3, 2, 1, go. All right, so we know we had this power. Anytime a monitor, one beep, did you hear that one beep? That's a good thing. This is an old Gateway motherboard. So when you saw the Gateway logo, that's the BIOS system kicking up, okay? And now we got starting Windows, if you can see there. And this is no surprise, but it's built just exactly how we finished up in the video the other day. I haven't changed. Once I did change a few things, I had to put it back. It's exactly where we left off, with the minor inconsistent problem of the CMOS battery, which is a 2032, I believe. Is it 2032 or 2030? I can't see it. I'm getting old. I apologize. Anyway, it's very common. They're all the same almost. So what we have here is, let's say we have Windows 7 Professional. You can tell that's an old operating system of Windows. Like I said, this was this motherboard came out of a system that I was using to test very, very old hard drives, and sometimes data mine for friends and family, pictures, and recover things for their new. So even though this is a relatively old system and I have booted up a couple times, it's still got a couple things here. It's filling in. There it goes now. It's not terribly slow. Now, this is by no means a full-fledged gaming rig. There's a few things you can do on this, but guys, like I said, this is a bunch of cheap parts and some really old stuff, but you can still get newer stuff for cheap. The point is, if you find a good deal on even newer stuff that you can afford, the point is you can build it. You can put it together. There's nothing different about a brand new board that's sitting on the shelf down at the store right now than this one, for the most part. Now, there's software issues. There's installation of Windows. There's all kinds of things. There's so many videos on that. I'd be happy to go over some of that at some point, but I think what we're doing is focusing on the hardware side of it right now. That's what my intentions were. I'll be happy to help anybody troubleshoot a system, get Windows installed, or anything I can do like that. It was funny. I did have a comment from someone. I'm not sure that they were actually a real person, but they asked me in response to one of the videos before, said, so you've never built a PC before, have you? Like, I wasn't sure if it was criticism or if it was just being funny. I said, well, yeah, one or two. Meanwhile, back at the ranch. So I did say I had some exciting news. I'm gonna hold off for that just a moment, but let's get this. There is CPU ID is a program I really like. I'm gonna go ahead and click on it. It'll diagnose what hardware you have in your system, and it'll tell you what's going on inside there, what's working. You see a little pop up here that says, do you want to run this? And you say yes. That is CPU ID, also known as CPU-Z. It's a free-to-use program. You can download it in about 30 seconds, put it on any computer, and it will give you the rundown. All right, so here's what we're dealing with. Looks like we have AMD Phenom X4 9150E. And it's a socket AM2 plus 65 nanometer, and I don't know what that means, but basically it's an AMD Phenom 2, I believe, but times 4. I'm not sure how they read that. Oh no, it's just Phenom, AMD Phenom X4. So that's part of the thing. The main board is a Gateway RS780. Obviously, it's an AMD chipset because that socket was AMD. American Megatrends Incorporated. When I first pulled this motherboard out of an old system, or had the system put together, and it was in a dirty old Gateway computer, as I remember, or regardless of whether I remember that it was Gateway, it was just a mess. So, but I knew that the motherboard worked, and I liked it. It looked cool. If I'm not mistaken, this board is made by Foxconn, which is a behind the scenes is a very popular motherboard maker or chipset maker. They're either chips or either way. I think it was in that family, and I was like, okay, that'd be worth hanging on to, even though it's retro. It's kind of old, obviously it is, but it's been reliable for a long time in doing different things with it. So I'm pretty excited about it. But it's also got blue and yellow colors on it. It's got little heat sinks. It actually does have USB SATA connectors for memories and stuff. So it was the step up over that. And then it also has the 24-pin IED controller pin, ribbon cable pin setting for hard drives. So that was why I held on to it. Right now we're dealing with DDR2. We have a total, don't hold your breath, we have a total of 4 sticks at 2 gigabytes each. I know. We're talking 8 whole gigabytes of RAM on an AM2 board. The graphics support on this, I was so happy to find out that this graphics card worked. Now, keep in mind when you do build a computer, if you put this particular board has an HDMI socket on the back of it, unless the CPU itself supports graphics, you will not see anything come out of the motherboard, even if it does have an HDMI input output. Pardon me, on the motherboard, it won't work. This particular AMD CPU, I don't believe has graphics support, but some of them that were compatible with this board may have. That's a great thing to have. If you're ever looking to build a brand new computer and you're just getting started, having a CPU that has graphics support is a great thing. And then if you're getting into serious gaming, obviously you want all your graphics to go through a graphics card, which is like this. This is a AMD Radeon HD 6900 series XFX Pine Group Incorporated, Cayman 40 nanometer architecture, 250 megahertz core, and it's got GDDR5 and 150 megahertz memory. It's not a bad graphics card. I'm not sure how good it is. But it works. And so knowing that the motherboard wasn't going to put out graphics, I knew I had to have a graphics card in here that worked. And while I was in that process and finally did get this thing to work, I went through and checked out this little GTX 750 Ti, and it worked as well. I'm not sure if this is not a better one than what's in there. Honestly, I can't keep track of the different models and things of different graphics cards, but I'm happy that both of those work because they're useful items in builds and fun and toys and to bring them to you. So, and then this one did require the 8 and the 6-pin power, but the newest thing that we had was this smart 500 watt, 80 plus power supply. So like I said, guys, if I had, and ladies, guys and ladies, I mean that as a general term. And so in the respect of buying the whole case computer, almost all the parts, whether in whatever manner of disassembly or it was, and when I got it, the sides were off. The power supply, for the most part, was valued at $25. He said he had bought it new, and I believed him that he said it worked and it was fine. So we've got, in that respect, there's no investment loss whatsoever. That, even though it's a fairly low power, 500 watts for bigger systems or newer systems, it's great for a desktop, for a workstation, or something for you to build to play with like this and learn how. So that was where we're at on that. But I had to have support of a graphics card of some kind, and that's where this came in. Once I saw that this worked for sure, regardless of whether I had drivers for this better graphics card, I was able to see and know that the CPU was talking and putting out graphics through the graphics card, so I knew that it was functioning properly. Getting it to run Windows and post on the disk had to restart several times. It would break down and start up again, and so it's not a slow process, or it's not a fast process by any means, but a lot of times, pardon me, if you're having trouble with the computer, restarting it is your best friend. So, or letting it go through the cycle, letting it set for a period of time, and then coming back to it. And if it holds up, you can always restart it. But most of the time, a computer will have to restart itself 4 or 5 times on a brand new build. That CPU and the RAM and the memory, and the BIOS especially, is learning aspects of the components that have been plugged into it, in case they're different than they were last time. And that's why this needs a battery, because just like your phone, it records a few things of information about your peripherals and your equipment here, and it remembers what's in them, and it knows how to talk to them. And that process usually takes 3 or 4 restarts on a brand new build, even with brand new systems. So that is a process. So it works. It was a great adventure. We got to this point. What can we do with this? We could type a letter. We could check email. It's not hooked up to the internet right now. I'm not going to go to a lot of trouble and do benchmarks and whatnot on it. But the fact that it works, if we broke it, we wouldn't be out anything. We got a great case for $40. That was a heck of a deal. And if you were here for the first video, and I mentioned a surprise, if you were here for the first video, you remember that I thought with that case, that I believe it was a Cooler Master case, I thought that it had a display up on the top for whatever reason. Well, when I disassembled that box and took everything out and had individual pieces, you might remember that I took the hard drive, or the disk drive system out, and I took that little display out, and I wasn't sure exactly what it did. But then I remembered, well, and I apologize it's so far away, but there's a reason for it to be over here right now. So this little display case, sorry, it's kind of been a long day. It lights up, and I saw when I was able to bypass power on the other case before the motherboard ever worked, I saw that it light up and that it had a temperature probe. And the one thing I didn't consider was, I looked on here, it says NZXT, and it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 plugins and 5 cords coming out the back of it. And I got to looking, and it's like, well, that's fan support. That's fan power. And sure enough, this is a fan controller. So even though our motherboard doesn't have support for all these fans, the controller that was in the other case does. Check this out. So here's power from my power supply, and I've already plugged in the fans. So check this out. Ta-da! Also, here on the display, it shows fan speed, temperature. There's a little probe in here I can put right next to the processor and get the temperature on the processor all the time. And all 3 of the front fans lit up. And so now we can use this controller to control those fans. We can set any speed we want. And the only difference is, because this case has that full mesh front, there's not a place to mount this. But my idea was, I was going to put it just inside here, mount it to the steel frame right here, and then I'll be able to see it through the glass window when the window's up. And if I need to make any changes, because this is a touchscreen, I can change individual fans, and I can adjust their speed. I go up or down. And so, in fact, there's one more surprise. We have fan control, and those look really good up there in the front behind that mesh. Now, if I was serious about wanting to invest and get into gaming, and I didn't have any other resources, the very first thing I would do on this would be buy a new motherboard plus a CPU compatible with that motherboard that had graphics support. And any amount of money you could get cheap, or you could spend a little extra. And then we've got a case, we've got the fans, we got power supply, we got a graphics card that works, that depends on how good of a motherboard you can buy with graphics support, could outrun this for sure, no problem. I've got the system I use for my entertainment system is just a basic AMD system, but all the graphics, I believe it's a 5600G Ryzen 5, and the G part of that number is graphics control. I don't even have a graphics card on it, and I plug it into my TV in my entertainment center, and I watch movies and stream YouTube and videos and stuff on that on a big 60-inch TV that looks amazing, and it appears it's 4K output, so it looks really good. But being video is all I stream and not having the workload of a game, you can do all this much more with a very cheap motherboard and graphics on the CPU. You don't even need the graphics card until later. But for the most part, like I said, this is a learning process. There's no mistakes in failing in a PC, because if I've done this a few times, it took me almost 3 hours to get this tricked out, to troubleshoot it, to figure out, hey, I needed a new battery. And it was the only thing it could be, because basically fixing a computer is replacing individual parts until something works, taking one part out at a time, testing it in another machine if you have it available, and seeing if it works properly or not. And then that just runs it all down. And so when I had done everything else, and I'm not gonna lie, I did everything else before I realized the battery was the fault, changed the battery out, and booted up right away. So gosh, I'm excited. I hope that you've enjoyed this video series. This is going to be a short video tonight. We're almost 30 minutes. But thanks to the new subscribers. Please like and follow. Leave me some comments. If there's something you'd like to see me do or represent or build or do as far as what you might have a question about, I'll be happy to replicate or do anything I can do to help. One idea I have going forward is, now, this is the keyboard that came with the $25 bundle, and this is the mouse that came with the $25 bundle. And this is a cheap Amazon Basics one I got for $9. It was a backup. It was USB. So when I try to use the mouse, it won't click. So there's no, and I can feel it. If I pull up, I can hear it click. So something about this mouse has gone wrong, and I may do a tear down of this mouse to look and see what's inside of it, or I may be doing a tear up, but I'll be happy to do that on video. I know you're not supposed to have to pull up to get that to click, so something is not right in there, but I'll be happy to do that as a video if you're interested. The very next thing I can do at the soonest is perhaps start looking on Facebook or Marketplace or Craigslist, try to find some other parts, and it's very possible I'll find an upgraded motherboard. If I get a smoking hot deal on, and which budget is a concern. I've got a little more money invested in some other computers, but for the practical purposes of sharing this with you and saying, hey, you can do this, and there's a minimal investment if you fail, and if you succeed, you'll have learned something that you can take with you. But if I can get a motherboard for $40 or $50 with the CPU, I'll do that swap out, and it won't take long at all because everything's in the right place, and we'll go from there. And then I'll slowly upgrade this system to unlimited. There's no limit to what I can put, because I do like this case so much. Which reminds me, Kevin at Fantech Cases, I replied to the very first service ticket I started. He replied to me and sent me a link for the bracket for the PSU in the back for the power unit. And I said, great. I went to the link. I bought the bracket. It came in the mail a few days later. And then I realized I didn't have the screws. And I looked all the screws I could find, and none of them were really compatible. So on the same email thread, I sent Kevin another reply to that email, said, hey, buddy, I don't have these screws. And he sent me a message back the very next day. They're so fast. They real time. They just every day they get back to you. He sent me a message. He said, hey, man, if you have the accessory box, which I did, and I don't know if I had mentioned that to him or not. It was very clear to him that I bought a secondhand case. He said, if you don't have the screws in there, then let me know. And so that night I got home from work. I checked my box. I just had the trays, and that was it. No screws. I sent him back a message, and the very next day, because like I get off very late at night, so he replied to me. He said, hey, buddy, I've got a brand new screw kit on the way. I looked at the invoice. There was no charge for it whatsoever. So way to go, Fantech. Great customer service, very responsive. And I'm telling you, I love Liam Lee cases. I like Cooler Master cases. My personal, I would not buy another NZXT case. If you wanted me to do a review of an NZXT case, my personal rig over here behind me is an NZXT case that I really, really liked. I had some issues, and we'll talk about that at some other point. It's a beautiful case. I love it. Working through the issues is a little problematic, but I overcame those. I had to engineer a couple of things in there to make it work better for me, but we'll go over that. I like Fantech cases, but as it stands, this Fantech case, even though it's not the newest one, this is my favorite case I've ever used so far. And I'm excited to say that. I don't hesitate to tell you that they have great customer service. And I think when we get that little controller board mounted right here inside, and we can see it, because this glass is not terribly tinted, I feel like it's going to look really good. And for the final moment, it's not quite enough room to clear that. And that's that. And honestly, guys, this turned out a lot better than expected. Obviously, I've got the back cover off, but that will be dark where you can see some of the light coming through. But I'm just kind of showing you from the side there. And for a case and a computer build that has a motherboard that, gosh, how old could that be? I honestly don't even know. None of these have dates on them. Obviously, Google's your friend in that respect. We could figure it out. And Windows 7 Pro, I mean, obviously, there's no support for that anymore, but it just happened to be what was on this disk. So I love the case. I've got some cable management to do, which is basically just sticking them away and hiding them. Get that little front plate mounted somewhere. I think it'll look really good right here and beside, because it'll light up. It'll shine through the glass. I have no issue with that, so I kind of like that idea. It's been fun for me. Gosh, I hope it's been fun for you. I'm looking forward to any feedback you have. I'd be happy to for any new ideas. Anybody has any new ideas or any questions, feel free to ask. And guys, I think I'm going to wrap it up for tonight. It's been so much fun. Thank you. Thank you very much for being here. It means a lot to me that somebody is seeing these videos and taking a few moments out of their time, and that I'm providing you something that's moderately entertaining. I know I have some friends out there. Special shout out to my friends. Got some people up in Illinois I care about, and even here in town, and my sister and my brother-in-law. Those guys, thank you for the support, and I enjoy sharing with you my experience and you seeing me be able to do something creatively productive. So with that, thank you so much for being here. Have a wonderful and great night. I'll be seeing you real soon. I'm going to probably do another video quick. I'll just make something up. How about that? It'll be something computer related, of course. Doesn't have to be, but I have some other hobbies and things that I like. Somebody just came in. I'm not sure who that is, but thank you. Please go back and watch the rest of this video. I wasn't going to plan on making a long video tonight, but check it out again. Other than that, guys, have a great night. Have a great day. I say have a good night. It's night for me. What time is it for you? Whatever time it is. Thank you. Your stream will stop immediately when you no longer be live.